Are we filming? Yes, we are. Yes. So, welcome to another video. Let me move that to one side because I must remember I'm doing picture in picture here. Let me show you something, and it's something that I've been experimenting for a while, and I wanted to share this phenomenon with you. If it is a phenomenon, I think it's a particular phenomenon. I've got a piece of I've got some text here, and I've got some text here, and I've got some text here. But let me show you this text first. So this actually says, a test of the Pilot G2 with the 1mm tip. This is significantly wider than the 0.7 standard version. What appeals to me is the way this high contrast ink line can hide any ghosting or show through when using this moleskin paper. Now, I'm just using a moleskin as an example for this because there is a tendency for many, perhaps most moleskins, for bleed through and show through if you're using a pen. It doesn't matter whether it's a fountain pen, or it doesn't matter whether it's a rollerball or a ballpoint or even pencil. To be honest, if you're using a moleskin, you can see through the page because it's so thin. It's certainly great for certain applications, but it's perhaps not great for people that don't like bleed through or show through. However, that is not the point. The point is this, and I want to illustrate this with this experiment. So I've got 3 lots of text here. I want to turn over. So this is written with a Pilot G2 and a Pilot G2 with a 1mm broad tip. This is my weapon of choice. It has been for many years, particularly with moleskins, because I'm a fan of moleskins, but I don't use fountain pens in moleskins. I use other notebooks for fountain pens. But here, I've actually written this in Waterman Florida Blue, and there's a reason for that. I have many inks, many fountain pens, but one of the combinations of nib and fountain pen that give minimal bleed through is Florida Blue with a fine nib, and that's what I've done here. Let's turn over the page and see what's what. So I've just left this centre bit blank so you can see, you can gauge the amount of show through. Look, and you can see there's quite a lot. When you zoom in to this level, you think, how can I possibly write on there? Because you've not only got a lot of show through, but even with this, even this rollerball, you've still got a certain amount of bleed through on each individual letter. So quite shockingly large amount of bleed through with a rollerball. However, I want you to look at this. Let's zoom out again. So, I don't know about you, but I can read this perfectly well. I'm using a 1mm Pilot G2 there, and I'm using the same passage, overwriting it there. And I can actually read that very, very well, even though the show through and the bleed through is actually significant because it's such a heavy tip, a 1mm tip. It's applying more ink to the page and you are getting more show through. But at the other end of the scale, if you like, using a fairly benign ink and nib combination for fountain pen use, if we zoom in to the Waterman overwrite, as they call it, what on earth is that? Can you read that? I know that says but what does that say? And what does this say? I mean, I would have to look closely and look at the context of the sentence and see that it's actually, the word is realism. But if I had this right up close, even though I'm writing in capitals, I wouldn't know what that is. And what does that say? What does that say? Oh, it says G2, but I mean, it's very, very difficult to see because, and this is my point. Let me zoom out. Because certainly on moleskin paper with this issue, I mean, is it an issue? Not really. These are just not designed for fountain pen use, but I'm happy with G2, but I wouldn't use one of these as a anything other than rough notes because of the issue of the paper. However, some people like them, and we are where we are. But crucially, this, using a pen with minimal bleed through and show through might not be the answer, because everything is relative. If you can have fairly benign and light bleed through and show through here, but because the contrast between the fairly, shall we say, lightweight ink being laid down onto the page is also fairly low contrast, you can see that there's very, very little difference or reduced difference between the actual ink on this side of the page and the ink showing through on the other side, making it very, very difficult to read. My solution, my suggestion, if you are using a notebook of any manufacturer where there is this difficulty, is, and I'm not plugging Pilot G2 because there are others available, but what I would say is, if you have this problem, then consider a wide rollable. In my opinion, after testing quite a few over the years, this is my favourite, and specifically the specific reason why, apart from the fact they're smooth and reliable and cheap, etc., but specifically the reason why I've been using one of these broad tips for many years is because by accident, as a moleskin user, I found that writing rough notes in a moleskin with a Pilot G2 to a greater extent than other inks negated the issue of show through because of the relative differentials of contrast on the page as you view them. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful, I know that, but if you have any questions about that, then let's discuss them in the comments. I appreciate that. And if you have any, if there are a few comments, then I will discuss them in a future podcast. Who knows? Or a coffee break. So I really appreciate your opinion of that. But I've been waffling for 8 minutes. That's more than enough. But I'd be very interested in what you think about my theory about relative contrast when it comes to obscuring show through with notebooks that have that issue. Thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.